In California's golden sunshine, the story that once shimmered with the promise of independence has now turned dark and tangled. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, once hailed as the bold architects of their own destiny, now find themselves ensnared in damaging whispers that simply will not go away. The narrative they so carefully sold to the world was, at its heart, very simple. They would break free from the suffocating grip of royal obligations, walk away from the endless, intrusive scrutiny of the palace, and fund a new, meaningful life through their own hustle and hard work. That modern fairy tale has officially soured. Instead of the admiration they expected, they are now staring down a storm of suspicion. This isn't just tabloid chatter, it's serious suspicion from powerful people who matter far more than gossip columnists, people who can trigger real-world consequences. The first cracks in their polished facade appeared in the way their personal wealth seemed to balloon overnight, almost immediately after they claimed to have been cut off from all royal funding. Their words painted a vivid picture of resilience and struggle. They insisted there was no more money from the Duchy of Cornwall, no more secret royal checks, and certainly no hidden allowance, just their own grit, talent, and the opportunities they would create for themselves in America. But just months later, their lives looked anything but modest or self-made. They were living in a sprawling Montecito mansion, a fortress of luxury protected by round-the-clock security that costs millions of dollars a year. They were seen with a fleet of endless luxury cars, and their wardrobe screamed of unimaginable excess at every public appearance. None of it fit with their carefully crafted claim of being financially cut off and starting fresh. The numbers didn't add up, and even their most ardent supporters started whispering the question that hung in the air: who's really paying for all this? The powerful Hollywood executives who initially rushed to bankroll the Sussex dream are now privately scratching their heads, filled with buyer's remorse. Spotify, one of their first major partners, backed away from their multi-million-dollar deal, with one executive publicly branding them F*********ing grifters, a label that has stuck. Netflix's initial enthusiasm now seems lukewarm at best, with persistent reports of stalled productions and creative dissatisfaction. Meghan's grand projects, designed to launch her as a global tastemaker and cultural force, keep fizzling out before they can ever reach an audience. Yes, Harry's memoir, Spare, made a massive initial splash, but one explosive book deal is not a sustainable financial plan capable of financing private jets and gated mansions for the rest of their lives. Those big money contracts, the ones that were supposed to fuel their financial stability and prove their independence, are proving to be incredibly shaky. This raises the deeply uncomfortable possibility that something else, something hidden from public view, is underwriting the entire Sussex empire. And that something else is precisely where the whispers of a federal investigation begin to gain terrifying weight. Financial trackers and federal investigators don't chase celebrity gossip. They chase anomalies in the data. They follow digital breadcrumbs that lead to offshore accounts, unusual international transfers, and shadowy donations funneled through complex charitable structures. Those are the very words that now hover around the couple's name like a gathering storm cloud. What makes the situation even worse is the brutal irony. The very charities and impact initiatives that Harry and Meghan once proudly held up as their shields of goodwill are now being examined under the harshest possible light. The idea that their own philanthropic causes could be tangled up in a questionable money trail is an explosive allegation, both legally and reputationally, and it threatens to destroy the very foundation of their public image. The carefully constructed image of Meghan Markle as a polished, globally influential icon is also crumbling under the pressure. She was marketed to Hollywood as a global power player, a woman of substance who could step into the role of a cultural leader and blend royal gravitas with Hollywood allure. But the projects haven't landed. The whispers in the industry now say she oversold her influence, overpromised on her abilities, and ultimately underdelivered, turning herself from a golden promise into a risky liability. Instead of the respected icon she aimed to be, she is increasingly being branded as a magnet for drama, a public figure who thrives more on chaos and conflict than she does on producing actual results. As for Harry, Insiders describe him as increasingly angry and restless, discovering that the freedom he so desperately demanded has turned into its own kind of gilded cage. Friends claim he snaps easily, deeply frustrated that his independence has brought him not peace, but an even harsher spotlight and louder judgment than he ever faced within the monarchy. The very same man who wanted to shield his family from the prying eyes of the British tabloids is now living out a financial saga far bigger and more damaging than any tabloid could ever script. Only this time, the storytellers aren't journalists. They're investigators, accountants, and government officials who do not care about royal titles, crowns, or sympathy-driven television interviews. They only care about the numbers. Hanging over all of this is the cold, calculated silence from the palace. Prince William, a man who rarely breaks his public composure, is reportedly done with the endless circus. Every damaging headline from California, every new rumor of federal eyes on his brother, is another heavy drag on the monarchy's reputation. He doesn't have to speak a single word, because the ever-widening gap between the two brothers says everything. Where there once might have been a sliver of hope for reconciliation, now there's only fatigue and a quiet disdain for the drama that simply will not end. The spotlight that Harry and Meghan once craved has now twisted into something much harsher, something they can't control. It's no longer the warm glow of admiration. It's the cold, unforgiving glare of an interrogation. And the deeper people look, the more uncomfortable the questions become. Their entire brand was built on the pillars of transparency and authenticity. Yet when it comes to their finances, the one thing that could silence all the rumors, there is only a deafening silence. It's a silence that feels heavier and more incriminating with each passing day, as if the couple themselves know that the answers they have won't hold up under intense scrutiny. The stakes are heavier than gossip. A federal probe isn't a tabloid rumor. It's a methodical process triggered by data, flagged transactions, and financial patterns that demand a clear explanation. If investigators confirm any irregularities, the consequences won't just be reputational, they could be legal, involving audits, fines, or even charges. The glitz of Montecito could be replaced overnight with the cold, sterile spotlight of a courtroom. Public opinion, which was once so forgiving, is shifting fast. Dinner table conversations, office chatter, and even casual debates on social media all circle the same painful point. Something doesn't add up. Supporters who once defended them as brave trailblazers are now hesitating. Sympathy was easy to give when their story was about breaking free from the crown, but sympathy is much harder to maintain when the story begins to look like a cynical exploitation of public trust. Without that goodwill, even their brand of victimhood becomes brittle. The fairy tale of independence has officially warped into something closer to a cautionary tale. What happens next may very well decide the fate of their entire legacy. If they can prove their wealth is clean, transparent, and earned through legitimate means, they may yet be able to rebuild trust. But if the whispers of financial wrongdoing harden into cold, hard evidence, their empire doesn't just crack, it completely crumbles. And when it does, the same spotlight they once courted will illuminate their fall in unforgiving detail. The irony couldn't be sharper. A couple who ran from the palace to escape scrutiny now finds themselves under a harsher, more powerful light than any royal has ever faced. The truth, once so elusive, is closing in until Harry and Meghan finally answer the one question everyone is asking: where does the money really come from?